It's 2024, and it's the celebration of 30 years of democracy, ye country yethu. And there's no way as SADTU uba singanga celebrate le 30 years, to celebrate like all South Africans, celebrating our democracy as the country. But the importance and relevance of this celebration and this 30 years of democracy in South Africa, it is such that it creates a platform for members of SADTU to sit like this and remind themselves about the journey that this union has traveled and about the platform that our democracy has created for us to thrive. If it was not for the ANC, the SACP, COSATU, and the whole movement, SANCO, some of the unions, nale union yethu, uba mhlambe babengekho, and if they never had a dream of this union of teachers and education workers in the country, mhlambe sasingeke sibe khona. As SADTU in KwaZulu-Natal, whilst the organization was launched in 1990, but for SADTU here, whether KwaZulu government or what, I think our recognition as the union came about late, or yes, in the second half of 1993. And it never came easy. And some comrades even died for the struggle, for the formation and recognition of our union. And that is why this session is so important, because what it also does, it helps members, the new members, those who are new in the profession, whether in colleges and in our schools, to understand and know better about this organization. It is also our belief that once we get reminded about what this union stands for, about where this union comes from, we will all unite to build and grow the South African Democratic Teachers Union. Our General Secretary will assist us with SADTU reflection on 30 years of democracy and how it helped SADTU to advance the transformation of education.
On behalf of our leadership of the National Executive Committee and our members throughout the country, thank you, KwaZulu-Natal, for this massive celebration of our 30th of democracy. But our democracy in 1994-1993 allowed us to have freedom of association. It was not only the Inkatha government that was refusing recognition of SADTU. De Klerk and his forces were also refusing to recognize this organization. We had to undergo and undertake a very fierce strike in 1993. We conducted that particular strike as a demand for us to have freedom of association, that we have to have recognition from the government of the day, which included the self-governing territories, where our members and teachers in particular were terrorized, threatened, victimized, and fired from work. We stood firm despite the mere 30,000 members that we were granted by apartheid. Today, comrades, we stand at 275,000 members from that 30,000. Today, as we celebrate, we are the biggest union in education. Today, as we celebrate our freedom and democracy, we are the biggest organization in the public sector as a whole. We represent 21% in the public service. We represent 2/3 of the teachers of our country in the ELRC. Thank you. We have a reason to celebrate. We call this progress, not work in progress. No, progress. We claim it. We worked hard. 30,000, 275,000 today. But that comes with responsibility, because we have witnessed this qualitative and quantitative growth, which means we needed to have policies and resolutions to making sure that education is transformed. So as we reflect in these 30 years of democracy, we have to remember where SADTU comes from. In 1988, we had to sign a Harare Declaration under the leadership of the ANC, SACP, and COSATU in Zimbabwe, in order to facilitate the unity of all the teachers in our country to form a non-racial and non-sexist trade union of the profession. So many organizations came together to form SADTU, and that is the victory of our movement. We belong to the people. We belong to our communities as SADTU. With this understanding, therefore, of this being a revolutionary task to accelerate the human resource development of our country, as assigned to us by our desire to develop and improve our education system, we therefore undertook the transformation project. Slowly, the centrality of education in the growth and development of our society is being foregrounded above all other important variables. The African National Congress, together with its alliance, have declared education as a priority for us to deal with poverty, to deal with unemployment, social ills in our country, and that we can only thank ourselves as a union. Our transformation of education was further informed by our conviction that societal transformation basically entails getting liberated from the chains. And our decolonization aspirations have been and are still the call for populations who are disregarded, degraded, vandalized, marginalized, enslaved, dispossessed in the past. In terms of our 2030 vision, we recognize this and said as long as there is still a feature of marginalization, of ethnic vandalization, of invasion of our rights and our privacy, it will sharpen our character as an organization, and we shall continue to struggle. In education, SADTU declared that colonial and apartheid hegemonic entities must be transformed. We declared our program to decolonize the then existing ways of obtaining knowledge, validating knowledge, interpreting and perceiving events. These we call the chains that were tying us down. The tyranny of colonial and apartheid system are very stubborn, comrades, to eradicate, and they need a strong union, and we have to strengthen SADTU. We were ready as an organization, with yourself as the army of revolutionary professionals, to liberate ourselves from the bondage of ignorance. We have to do more. There's still a lot of ignorance. If you can walk around here and hear a person saying to you, there's nothing that has been done in 30 years, you must know that as teachers here, you have a lot of work to do to liberate that person from mental slavery, to liberate that person from ignorance, because it has been anchored for many, many years using a number of entities, a number of trajectories that have anchored that particular level of thinking. That's ignorance. It's a powerful tool that destroys you if you are ignorant. In 30 years, we advocated for liberatory education practices, teaching methods, professional practices, and research practices across disciplines and curriculum. We here confirm today, without any fear of contradiction, that we have made remarkable progress in these 30 years of democracy. Of course, I have to emphasize, those who remained enslaved, those who remain chained by ignorance will say nothing has happened. But we, the people of this country, and we as the teachers representing our communities here, we are saying, as the professionals, we have and we will continue to do our work to use education as a catalyst, as an enabler, but also as a liberation tool in our hands. We meet here, comrades, today to reflect at the time when the existence of national cohesion, genuine democratization, as well as non-racialism of our society are receiving impetus and attention as key components of the NDR. As we celebrate these 30 years of democracy and education transformation, I wish to remind you of what Lenin asserted about education. He said, and I quote, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." He further tellingly said, "Education is a weapon whose effects depend on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed." We as SADTU fully understood that the architects of colonialism and apartheid used education as a weapon to advance white supremacy and degrade our cultures. We therefore have to use education as a weapon to fight against ignorance, self-hate, racism, tribalism, and all the ills that impeded our advancement and growth. We look at you and see soldiers armed with knowledge, skills, and wisdom. We see you, comrades, as revolutionary professionals with this weapon that is a catalyst and a game changer in terms of societal transformation within the 30 years of our democracy. We are here today reflecting on the work you have done in ensuring that the seed of education transformation is moving forward and that will never be uprooted and that the seed will continue to grow and blossom. In you as the leaders and members of our organization, we are able to understand and interpret the world just like what Madiba said. And I quote Nelson Mandela. He said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." We therefore truly believe that achievement of greater social justice is closely dependent on equitable access by all sections of the population to quality education. He once tellingly observed that there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. So today I wish to say, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children and their teachers. In 30 years, we have achieved what was destroyed by a tyrannical colonial system for more than 360 years. We have achieved permanent employment of teachers as an organization under the ARC where we're negotiating. Let me remind you, comrades, that majority of you who were there before 1994, when you were to get pregnant or you wish to increase your family, you had no right to do so unless you agree that you are not going to be employed permanently. So women had suffered under the apartheid system because if they decided to form a family outside wedlock, then they will have to be dismissed and come back as temporary educators. We dealt with it and we changed it. Today, young educators, elderly educators, they can choose whatever is right for them. And therefore, they will never be victimized. They have the rights. Today, they have a maternity leave for 4 months, which they can increase, if they so wish, to 6 months, and they will be paid for the 4 months that they are on paternity leave, maternity leave. Today, teachers who are males or men do qualify for a paternity leave, which also includes that when you decide to adopt, you also qualify for maternity and paternity leave. Today, we have all workers in education who qualify for them to have family leave to transact family issues, because we are only strong when our families are taken care and they are strong. Then, that is what we fought for, comrades. We did not only fight for teachers, we fought for education support personnel, that they have to be employed permanently. We had none in our schools, but since 1998, we have been able to employ secretaries, financial managers, people who help with the classroom cleaning and so forth, because they play a very critical role in the education system. Never undermine the security. Never undermine the people who clean our schools, because in education we will do nothing unless our classes are clean, unless our sanitation is healthy, and therefore it's very critical. And that is what we achieved in this 30th of democracy. We have integrated our systems and have done away with apartheid admission system for our children. Our children can be admitted in any school. You can be employed in any school of your choice. Of course, when we march forward, we still have to change those who are still chained, because there are those who are still using language to discriminate against learners. There are still those who use language to discriminate against the employment of teachers in their schools. We've got to attend to that. This is a South Africa, it's a constitutional democracy, and we cannot allow discriminatory practices in our schools. We have increased the enrollment in our schools, both ECD, post-schooling system, and our basic education. Today, we stand at almost universal access in our basic education. We can see our children are fed in the schools. They eat, they learn. We know it. It wouldn't have happened under apartheid. It is happening now under the African National Congress government. We know it. Today, there are no fee schools. Today, we know that access, availability to our children is open, and our children are getting education. We still have to improve and do away with mud schools and pit latrines. Today, in 30th, we can assure you that we have now dealt with the mud schools in our country, and we have done away with those particular schools. We can say to you today, every learner receives learning materials in our country. We have a constitution that is termed the progressive constitution in the world, which gives us the rights in terms of Chapter 3 of the Bill of Rights. Comrades, through our COSATU and ourselves, we have made sure that the Labor Relations Act is progressive, it's protecting the workers, it's protecting the teachers. When this law was passed in 1995, SADTU took part and participated in this particular legislation because our parliament allows public participation in the development of our laws in the country. When the BCEA, which is the Basic Condition of Employment Act, was passed, we participated, and it protects the minimum conditions at work that you qualify. It protects you as the workers, and it protects the workplace and so forth. When in 1995-96, when the Employment of Educators Act was passed, we had to ensure that there is fairness in terms of the rights, fairness in terms of promotion, fairness in terms of appointment. You would not dream to become a principal during apartheid unless you belong to Tuata or belong to any other thing that was there. You needed to prove membership of those particular associations. Today, you have the right to become anything you want in the institutions that you are working at. You can be promoted to become principal, deputy principal, HOD, or even a senior teacher in our institution without having to really sweat and sell your soul. When we wanted to transform education and the admission processes, we participated in SASSA, which is called the South African Schools Act. We continuously amend this act to respond, and just yesterday, that particular bill that is amending SASSA was also passed, which is a progressive law that is going to address our issues at the level of the schools. So we have influenced as a SADTU the transformation of education through the South African Schools Act, where our governing bodies, they know how to develop a strategy, how to run this particular vision in support of our school management. And therefore we are saying to you, whilst we have achieved that, there is a threat that is coming. There's a threat of people who want to be elected in the SGBs just to fight the principal, just to fight SADTU, just to steal the money of the school. Please be aware. Make sure you educate the parents, educate the communities to ensure that that does not happen. Remember that you did not have a right to contribute to your pension. Remember that we had to come up and then say there must be redress for the pension, that African teachers and African workers in education must also contribute to the pension fund. When we joined the GPF, it had less than 130 billion. Today, we have built that on your behalf to 2.2 trillion rands in this country. It's one of the top 10 in Africa, in the world, as a pension fund because of this particular government and ourselves. And today, you will qualify for additional benefits of this particular pension act in terms of the law. In September, you will also have to be able to access 30% of what you shall have saved in order to ensure that you address your issues. But I will not do that. You must look at my hair. I don't qualify. I don't qualify because if I take anything out of my pension, I will not have another 15 years of work. So be careful. So comrades, the importance of today is to celebrate our achievements, and we will not be able to list all of them. But your responsibility and a duty as a member, as a leader of SADTU, is to ensure there's a unity in that school where you are working. There's a unity of our organization. There's a unity of our alliance, and that we can then drive progress moving forward. We are clear as an organization that we still have a lot of work to do, but with the basic, and this basis and the foundation that we have laid, we will spring, we will run, we'll ensure that we achieve more and more. So what I can say, with the list and so few of the things that I have said, you are witnesses, you know it. You know that you have got a dispute resolution mechanism. You know that when you have a grievance, you can lay that grievance. You don't have to fear anybody. It's a recourse. You know that when you have a grievance, promotional, whether it's work-related, you can declare a dispute and it will be arbitrated by a qualified commissioner without you having to pay. Only pay membership of SADTU for us to be able to do that work. But you don't have to pay for lawyers to represent you during dispute resolution mechanism. Those things were not there. We needed to represent teachers in the industrial court, and we had to pay a lot of money to represent our teachers. Today, you are represented for free when you have got your issues because of the work that the union has done. So in terms of the transformation of education, we will never put a full stop. We have made remarkable progress in our country. We have a foundation to move on and build. We will address violence. We will address infrastructure. We will address all the social ills as long as we remain united. Amandla!
You do deserve to celebrate the 30 years of our democracy for a number of reasons, especially in education. You were part of the struggle to bring about this democracy, and you are also part of the struggle to strengthen and consolidate it. We still need very, very strong trade unions as part of deepening our democracy. I'm glad SADTU still remains strong. There is improved pass rate, but SADTU, let's not only focus on matric, let's focus on the entire chain of schooling. Ukuthi siya improve the pass rate. And also we welcome government as the SACP to take early childhood development
on behalf of the
away from social development to the education department. This activity by SADTU done to celebrate 30 years, which will benefit a lot of you as teachers. We have said because NSFAS only caters for students who come from families that are earning not more than 350,000 rand, we are now introducing a new loan scheme for students who come from families who are earning between 351,000 and 600,000 to get loans which they will pay when they work. Uma sebesebenza. Othisha baningi abebengakwazi ukuthi abantwana babo at least bayongena emanyuvesi nasemakolisi sekuzokwenzeka lokho. Othisha are amongst the most influential layer in society.
You are celebrating the achievements that we have made over the past 30 years. But you are also celebrating our victory and the achievements we are going to make in the next 30 years. Your union has played an incredibly positive and revolutionary role, not only to get our education to where it is. You have played an incredible role, progressive and revolutionary role, of getting our country where it is. And we say thank you to you as the teachers of our nation for what you achieved. You are really the backbone of the labor movement in our country. You are the pillar of unionism in our country, but you are also really a shining star of progressive unionism, revolutionary commitment as a union. So I applaud you and I take off my hat to you. When we talk about SADTU, we talk about a trade union that is very clear politically, a trade union that is organizationally very strong, and a trade union which has a very clear vision, not only about its role as a trade union movement, a clear vision of where our country's education should be going to. You are forward thinkers, you are real good implementers, and you implement your craft every day. And you are truly, without mincing our words, we are truly appreciative and grateful for the existence of SADTU in the labor movement, in KwaZulu, and in the body politic of South Africa. And once again, you are right to celebrate, and I say thank you. You are a union that has achieved a great deal. You've achieved enormous benefits for your members. So you have also played a critical role in the improvement of the employment conditions of working people in the education sector, in government. When we look at unions that organize in the public sector, the first union that comes to mind is SADTU. You have made sure that workers have the rights that they have. You played an important role to make sure that the constitution we have was enshrined or was crafted. In that, even as we were negotiating the constitution, you did not look only after yourselves or your own interests as workers. You were broad enough. You looked at the interests of the working class in South Africa. Recently, even as we were negotiating the national minimum wage, you were one of the voices that insisted that the demand that had been put in the Freedom Charter should finally be won, knowing very well that the minimum wage issue was not applicable to you because many, if not all of you, are above the level at which we peg the minimum wage. But nonetheless, you insisted that the national minimum wage must be there for the benefit of 6 million working men and women in our country. So that is the role that you play. You as a union, even where you face difficult challenges, for instance, when some of your own members got involved in very controversial and tricky issues, for instance, in schools, and where some molested young girls and so forth and boys, you were the union that said, we will not allow this to happen in our schools. And we applaud you for that. And we say thank you very much, because the moral high ground that SADTU gained was really priceless. You were seen as a leader of society. You are a really special union, and your role becomes even more special as we look back at the 30 years of the road that we have traversed, and as we look at the future, and as we focus more particularly on the 6 priorities that were set out by the African National Congress together with the alliance partners, where we identified 6 priorities, has been happening because SADTU has been one of those entities that has said we must focus on skills, we must focus on extending knowledge amongst our people. So I applaud you for being true to your craft. You are truly the real patriots of our nation, and we thank you for all those positions that you have taken.